Hi everyone and welcome back. We are here to discuss Doctor Who. I say we are here. Once again, I fly solo, it seems. I've been abandoned.
How dare you? I had one job to cover the three specials, and I managed a grand total of one of them. Although, to be fair, one of them was pure, I can't do that day. The other one, let's now address it, was because we were very fortunate that I was able to attend
Sorry, what's this
screening.
we nonsense? What's this we?
Sean took one for the team and stayed behind to do the ups and downs. I, on the other hand, and Sai were very fortunate to go to a screening of the Giggle, which was organised between Toshiba TV and the BBC. There was some props and there was costumes on display. There was the Meep and a Tardis and lots of various props. And so that was very, very cool. And so there was a screening of the Giggle. I tell you what, watching the Giggle in an environment where you've got a humongous screen and very loud speakers, full of in a room full of fans, is such an experience. It's very different to watching it in your living room. It was something else, just the anticipation of things coming. You could hear everyone in the room gasping or crying or shouting. I got to catch up with Crystal D, who we did Magic the Gathering collaboration with a little while ago. So I got to catch up with Crystal. And also, you sit down and next to you sits Emily Cook and Jacob Dudman, who are both very prominent people within the Doctor Who universe. And it was lovely. There you go, lovely people. That's why I wasn't doing the ups and downs. I hope you can forgive me.
I think that's fair enough. Obviously, I'm going to say that because I had a lot of fun doing the ups and downs. But I think that's a fair enough reason. I was one of those people who was watching it at home, but no, it was bloody brilliant. Myself and my partner, we were watching it here, just giggling away. Yeah, pun not intended. Right. But I think this episode is going to have like a moment or two where people will be like, I'm going to remember that in 10 years.
Absolutely.
So
I definitely feel as though, just to kind of take us into a little bit more of thoughts on the episode, we both said for the last two episodes that there's something about them that just, while they're amazing, doesn't quite feel anniversary necessarily. And I definitely feel like this one was my favorite of the three episodes and had more of that anniversary feel to it. Maybe not all of the marks that you would expect from an anniversary special, but I think the fact that we had the Toymaker, who was a classic villain, we had Mel, who was a classic companion, it just kind of had that. And although it was a different approach to it, it was in some ways a multi-Doctor story,
exactly.
just in a different way. So it started to tick those boxes that you've come to expect with an anniversary special that we hadn't really seen in the previous two, and we're starting to get a little bit concerned that we weren't going to get.
Yeah, like the only thing I think we were like, right, this is happening going in, is we knew there'd be a regeneration. Other than that, there was nothing certain. And I mean, there's so much, but I mean, Neil Patrick Harris as the Toymaker,
Perfect casting.
absolutely, like spot on.
Perfect casting. He's just a fantastic performer anyway, but the moment, I mean, he literally opens the episode and instantly I was like, oh, you're menacing, very mischievous, very playful. Ups and downs wise, I mean, maybe you found this as well, but I think genuinely I'm struggling to think of as many downs.
Yeah, it's been a couple of days since I've watched the ups and downs, so some of them have gone out of my head now, but were there any around the Toymaker? I don't think. Like there was some of the CGI, and even that's not that bad. Like it was just okay, look, I know.
No, I didn't actually have that much of a, I think because it was so creepy, and I think the kind of hokiness of that puppet and David Tennant's head on it, I think it added to it, that it kind of looked a little bit out of sorts. You can almost tell it was CGI.
Really quickly, because it actually ties into the puppets as well. Very special hello to Charlie DeMello, who was Charlie in the episode. Hi. Okay.
But here's the question: him or Super Hot Unit Soldier?
I'm gonna go with Charlie, and I mean all of that with love and respect to Super Hot Unit Soldier, but
it's all right. I'll take Super Hot Unit Soldier.
Grand.
You have
Okay,
Charlie.
cool.
That's
So,
sorted. Okay.
Charlie and Super Hot Unit Soldier, the offers are there. We hope you're well.
Just to be clear, he does have a name. His name is Colonel Ibrahim, I think. He does have a name.
Excellent.
But to
Cool.
us, he will forever be Super Hot Unit Soldier.
The most interesting thing to me is, will any of this make the edit?
Absolutely.
Yeah, damn well better. Yeah. Remember, Danny, I also keep a copy of this video file and can release it online at any point if I want to get hard cancelled. But that whole opening scene, I mean, the fact of like, just in real life, Stucky Bill being the first image transmitted on television, like, I'm so sorry to everyone who saw that, because that's terrifying.
You what, when I was saying earlier about the kind of the difference in experiencing it in a room with really loud speakers and a lot of people in the room, and the moment that the mouth opened, and it was obviously a jump scare moment, but if you're watching it at home and it's not that loud, yeah, it's a bit of a jumpy thing, but it probably wouldn't make you jump. When you're sat right next to the speakers and that noise comes, that loud jump scare noise, and the puppet's mouth opens on this massive screen, when I tell you I jumped,
Yeah.
I can't even put my finger on what it is, but there's just an element that I feel like has been missing, and instantly it's back again. And I can't even tell you what it is about it, but there's just something that Russell T Davies has. It's like he fully understands exactly what we need.
It's the crash bang wallop.
And also just the dialogue. I mean, as we've said, Russell T Davies, he just knows how to write the hard-hitting lines that just get it.
Mm-hmm. And he does, and obviously there's a beautiful relationship there between David Tennant and Russell T, because Russell can write him, David can say him.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, right, we've gone vaguely off on a tangent here. So, the Doctor and Donna get back. Everyone's, going on. Because I made this point already, but really quick. I was seriously annoyed at, just after Wild Blue Yonder's release, that Russell T and the BBC were tweeting about, oh, this is Wilf's final appearance. And, it's like, give people a chance to watch. However, two things helped me. One was that it then didn't leave us go in 7 days going, I wonder what Wilf's part in the Giggle is going to be. And the other one is that, in fairness, during the week, Russell T did go online and say, look, 7:31, there's going to be spoilers. We've got to do it. It's part of our job. So I'm giving you a heads up now. And I'm just like, no, all right, fair enough. Enough.
Yeah, I did see that little disclaimer that they posted. And he's right, though. In this day and age of social media, you cannot avoid it. It's not. And so they're better off jumping the gun and doing it themselves, rather than someone else spoiling it through other means. One thing I will say, though, and I think I mentioned this in my discussion on the ending, was because I guess maybe the nature of our job and also the nature of social media and speculation, I think I went into the screening went into this episode already with a slight inkling that we were going to have this Bigeneration, this split regeneration. And so the one thing that I was slightly disappointed by is I think I kind of anticipated it and was expecting it slightly. And so it wasn't quite as much of a shock as I hoped it would be, because I kind of knew it was coming.
Do you know what? I had the same thing, but from another direction. So as soon as, which by the way, I love the scene where Donna and Mel take either hand. And I thought this was lovely. And from the moment the glowing stopped, I think I started to grin. Because like that, I was like, we're only 3/4 of the way into the episode.
Yeah.
I was like,
and obviously we knew that we'd been teased that Ncuti had more to do in the episode than just appearing in the last 10 seconds. So that's when the clock started to turn, and I was like, I think it's happening.
Yeah. So, I mean, I did love it in that respect. So, but to your point, yeah, I think I was a bit like, well, we know it's not going to be a normal regeneration. I suppose technically we didn't know that, but we knew that.
And the other thing I think as well is it happened, and I was so kind of confused about how it happened and what it meant that it took me a while. I watched it again at home without the pressure of being surrounded by Who fans and creatives behind the show. And once I kind of got my head around what it actually meant, and then further commentaries from Russell T Davies, and it was explained a little bit more, and then obviously I had to understand it to explain it to everybody else.
Yeah.
Now I'm much more on board with it, because at very first I was like, I don't understand what's happened.
There's a great article. It's over on Game Rant. It's written by Damaris Oxman. So thank you in advance, because I'm going to go through it now a little bit, which talks about this concept of Bigeneration and how, yes, it's completely mythos breaking and we've never had one before, but that thing that no one wants to talk about, the timeless child, introduced something completely and utterly new to Doctor Who lore, that the Doctor themselves basically brought regeneration to Gallifrey. And we know from talking about the Flux that, nope, you know, kind of, I'm never thought they were going to do this, and I'm glad they didn't. But no, we're not pretending 13's run didn't happen. So having the Doctor being, you know, sort of Time Lord Mark 1 means perhaps this is something perfectly normal, you know, in wherever the timeless child is from. And the Time Lords themselves would not have known that, you know, what Bigeneration really meant. Now, I know the Doctor says, you know, it's always been thought of as a myth, which means it's probably been talked about on Gallifrey. But I like that. Take these plot points that have been dropped before and use them to kind of create new mythos. And it goes back to what you were saying, do something new.
Yeah. I think the thing is, as well, is as wonderful as it is to see these kind of really deep interpretations and theories about what this means, I don't even think Russell T Davies has thought that deeply about it, because if you look at the kind of discussions and commentaries that he's given about it, he basically said that in his mind, this has happened with every Doctor at some point. And he basically commented on how with things like the Spider-Verse and the multiverses now being a really prominent thing in popular culture that audiences do understand and are on board with, why not incorporate that same idea into Doctor Who? And basically it's his way of being able to have past Doctors show up without having to find some really confusing way to explain why they look older.
On the one hand, you'd love them all to be able to remember everything. Time streams are out of flux, you won't be able to remember this, grant. Now, the positive of that is that for a moment, the War Doctor realised he was a hero, he wasn't a villain, and that was choked up, tears down everywhere. And, you know, we knew from there that 11 would remain, or would retain the memories of, nope, we're trying to save Gallifrey. And that's right. But yeah, I'd like to be just like, you know, the inevitable Sean Pertwee turns up as 3, and they have a chat, and everyone goes away remembering everything. I mean, that'd be great. You don't have to do a reset button. You don't have to do a timey-wimey thing.
It would be a case of this is a Doctor from a different... I think he's named it the Doctorverse. It's just...
I like that.
A different version of the Doctor. And I like that idea as well. This is a show about time travel and stuff, and how, you know, there are limitless possibilities as to what could happen. And so for every crossroad you come to, do you turn left or do you turn right? And, you know, there's a universe where Donna turns left and there's a universe where Donna turns right.
Yeah, great big universe created by the Trickster.
So yeah, I think I think at first I didn't understand it, and I was that confused me. And so I wasn't sure how I felt about it. But now that I've kind of done my research, I think actually it's a very clever avenue to take the show in, as long as they don't use it just for the sake of it. Don't use it as a get out of jail free card. You've got to use it sparingly and for the right reasons, and if that's the case, it will be a really great way for the show to go. Yeah,
basically don't kill off Shooty and then go, oh, it's fine, it was another one.
Yeah, it's okay, we've still got David Tennant.
I did see, now you always have to take everything that's released online with a pinch of salt, but yeah, I think I woke up this morning to basically a post where Russell T was just like, David's resting and we're going to let him rest. You know, we've no plans to bring him back.
I'm kind of glad of that. I think this is another point that I made in our discussion, in my breakdown of the ending. Obviously, we did a video not that long ago discussing David Tennant's future in Doctor Who.
Yes.
And one of the concerns that we had was, how many times do you bring him back before it stops being meaningful anymore? And because he didn't go, I did start to have that nagging voice going, oh no, they're gonna overuse him, and they've kept in. And a friend of mine actually sent me a message, and I hadn't really thought about it, but it was kind of a good point, kind of suggesting that obviously we know that to some degree the bringing back of Catherine Tate and David Tennant here was to bring back those wavering audience members that had dropped off, and amongst other reasons, but it's quite obvious that that was one of the reasons. And the fact that they haven't killed him off and they've still left him open maybe suggests that they've kept a fail-safe just in case everything they've done doesn't work, and then they can fall back on David Tennant and Catherine Tate again. And I'm not saying that's necessarily is the point, is a case,
Sure.
or is, but you can't help but feel like, do you have that little faith that you can't move forward without having to keep him there just in case?
I would say I see your point.
Yeah.
I would say it's more just smart business.
I mean, yeah, and obviously we've spoken a lot about, we know there are spin-offs coming, but I would also say that they have got to wait a good amount of time. If they are going to have a Donna and Doctor spin-off, they've got to leave it for quite some time. Let Ncuti have his time now.
100%. And I think as well, that's certainly, again, if we're to believe all of the press releases and everything, we were following Ncuti going forward,
Yes.
which I'm very happy about. Like, we've seen the couple of clips from the Christmas special, which I'm very excited about. Our friend Darren Scott over at SFX Magazine has just released his spoiler-free review. So if anyone wants to check that out, there are no spoilers. And to say that it's glowing like a regeneration. So I'm really, really happy. I can't wait to see it, but apparently it's a great start for Ncuti and Millie Gibson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and actually before we move on to discussing that a little bit, let's just talk about Ncuti a little bit, because obviously this is the first time we'd seen him in the role.
I love him.
I love him too. I also just feel like the poor man comes to his first day on the job and they say to him, "You're going to do this whole scene in your pants."
Oh, I mean, like, I was laughing about this online and the amount of discussion about it, but funnily enough, there's plenty of thirst going on, but there's also like, this is silly. This all looks silly. I was like, they've split everything, including their clothes. Be glad you get pants.
Another friend of mine did text me afterwards and went, if they have split the outfits, does that mean from that moment on David Tennant is Commando? Yes. And then I couldn't get it out of my head.
100. I mean, it does. It absolutely does.
No one will be able to get that thought out of their head now. They'll be watching him going, "Oh."
I think. See, I agree with you, but I think having looked online, I think that thought's been in a lot of people's heads since Saturday.
I tell you what was very interesting though, having been at this Q&A afterwards, was the costume designer saying how much discussion and thought went into these pants. She said that the script said that this was what was going to happen, and at the time she didn't know who was going to be playing the 15th Doctor, and so she was trying to find out. She kept asking like Russell T Davies and the likes of people who knew, will they look okay in pants? Are they going to be okay doing this? And she was trying to find out who it was, and they were like, it'll be fine, don't worry. She's like, it was a genuine worry. It was a genuine concern that this poor guy was going to have to turn up in pants, and I didn't want him to be uncomfortable.
When the 60th anniversary concert aired, obviously we were treated to the 15th Doctor's theme.
Oh, I love it.
So I've been listening to that on repeat ever since the concert came out. And then we were sitting there and, kind of like, oh, what? Push, dun, 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 dun. I was like, yes, yeah. And it's definitely the first time I've ever been able to hum along with the new Doctor's theme from the jump. And
I will say that is another highlight of this episode. I mean, I love Murray Gold's music, but the Toymaker's theme, that kind of choral thing. I mean, we have had choral music and vocals in Doctor Who music before, but there's something about that particular compilation, whatever they've done there, I just loved it.
It's like, again, it's and I know you mentioned this already earlier on with while you're at the screening, but I think the dedication to stick to the time travel theme and for Murray Gold to go back to the 90s and compose Spice Up Your Life so that it could be used here to such a... It's so funny as well, like, so we've done so much, like, of so many deep dives on the Toymaker over the last few weeks, knowing that, Neil Patrick Harris is going to be in this, and they're so different. I mean, like, of course they are, but like, a part of me wants to see the deep fake of Michael Gough dancing to spice up your life.
Oh, it was just beautiful. I tell you what was quite funny as well, though, is that spice up your life to anyone who lives this side of the pond anyway. It's like an anthem. Everyone knows spice up your life. It's such an inherently, mostly British. I realize that, and Irish.
Thank you. That's all you needed to say, Ellie.
A British and Irish thing.
There you go. Cool.
But what's very strange about that was that, again, at this, I think it was covered in Unleashed as well, but also at this talk, they were saying that Neil Patrick Harris does not have the same connection to Spice Up Your Life that everyone else does.
Oh, of course, yeah.
As an American, he was like, I've never heard this song before. I think he said in Unleashed that he set it as his alarm. So he kept hearing it every single day so that he could try and like learn it and memorize it and feel the same connection to it that everybody else seemed to be feeling.
I was enjoying. I love as well, like in the days since, obviously, you scroll TikTok, it's the same clip 100 times. But the official Spice Girls TikTok account sharing that scene, I was just like, how has it taken this long for there to be this amazing... I know Spice Girls have been referenced in Doctor Who before, but like just for there to be this connection, this crossover between the two, it was...
The whole scene was amazing. I mean, poor Kate. He just had a little dance and smack into the wall.
Right, yeah. And then, so Mel can spin. Good for her. Actually, Mel, I said this in the ups and downs, but I love the sound of my own voice. I love how they brought her back. And I'm genuinely, I mean this with respect, because I really do enjoy the power of the Doctor as an episode. But it was the awkward, oh, hi, Ace, hi, Tegan, oh, there's so much unresolved. And whereas here it's just like, oh my God, Melanie, it's so nice to see you. It's so nice to see you too, Doctor. How'd you get home? Did this. Brilliant. Everything's great now that you were here. Thank you. I don't like this idea. And in fairness, Russell T is not innocent of this, if you think back to School Reunion, of this idea of like every time a companion leaves, they end up not liking each other. Or there's something going, this unresolved issue. I think Martha was mostly spared this. Because when we see Martha coming back in Poison Sky. And
I think a lot of that has to do with Donna and Donna's interpretation of it, because Donna's not head over heels in love with the Doctor. Sure. She doesn't get jealous that there were people before her. So you see that with Martha. She's like, oh, you wish we'd start fighting over each other, but actually that's not going to happen. And the same thing happens here with Mel. It's a case of, oh, so I wasn't the first redhead, but it's a joke. It's not, oh, there were people before me. Yes, I'm a billion years old.
Exactly. And we do get this is actually something I had meant to discuss upstairs and I didn't. Really, is that talk between Donna and the Doctor. The Doctor goes, look, as you say, I'm a billion years old. And it's, if you add up everything the Doctor's ever said about previous companions and breaking hearts and it killed me every single time, and it's like, he doesn't forget anyone and never did. And like we get that great scene, it starts with a bit of bickering, but between Tegan and the Fifth Doctor, Braveheart Tegan, what am I thinking of? Adric, yes, look. So I really, really, really enjoyed how they brought her back. And then Mad Auntie Mel as well at the, which I really, really love it. And I really like this episode. I think it's going to go down in history as one of the better episodes. I think it stands alone as well. If the Star Beast served to reintroduce Donna and basically get Donna's memories back without killing her, and if Wild Blue Yonder, Wilf, but gave us this idea of turning myth into reality with Salt at the edge of the universe, which I say this with love, still doesn't really work for me. But that's fine. That's fine. And again, to bring back to Oxman's article on Game Radar there, that this idea of the Salt myth got turned into reality, which allowed the Toymaker to cross over, which allowed the myth of Bigeneration to be turned into reality. It's another way of looking at it. Maybe it was always just going to be a myth, and it's only now that there's this reality breaking thing.
Yeah, well, I feel like that's what it is, because there was a lot of talk about how in the reality of the Toymaker, the laws of physics and the laws of the universe don't apply. And I think that is what it is. And the thing is, as well, is the Doctor literally says to the Toymaker after this happens, you did this. You split us. This was you.
Yes.
So it's not oh, how did this happen? The Toymaker made it happen. He forced that Bigeneration. And whether that's he did it on purpose, or whether it was through the warping of reality and his universe seeping into ours, or theirs. It's something that it was made to happen. It didn't just happen. Something triggered it.
Our friend as well. So this ties in both with what Christopher Monfett said, and our friend James Amy had a very interesting theory about this discussion of Time Lords do rehab out of order. And, Chusey's 15th Doctor arrives on the best day of his life.
Yeah.
And he is, I've got you. And, this idea of our future selves is here to take care of us. And so James's theory suggests that the 15th Doctor is what they are. The 14th Doctor is going to stay with the Noble Temple Mott clan and Mad Anti-Mel and do his rehab before then regenerating into the 15th Doctor. So it sort of suggests that almost this Bigeneration has almost plucked 15 out of a future timeline. I don't know if that would work 100%, but at the same time, I get it.
This is my there's not concern, but this is where my brain gets confused. It's what happens after when 14 dies. I did see a theory, obviously, because Time Lords, I mean, the Doctor's literally said this before, I can't grow old with you. I will not die. So it's all very well that 14 has this life, this normal life, but he is still a Time Lord. And so at some point, he's going to find himself back in this heartbreaking situation where where he outlives everyone. And that's where I'm like, are we going to explain this, or are we just going to have to ignore that now?
Super. I reckon, thank you very much, Russell T, because we're going to get lists out the wazoo out of this episode. So
we are not going to stop.
No, we are not. No. Yeah, I don't know. I loved it. I got all those happy feelings. Oh, sorry. Big up for the wheelchair ramp and hilarious amount of laughter at the people freaking out over this. Oh my god, the TARDIS is wheelchair accessible. Oh, however, you've jumped the shark.
I mean, I'm not being funny, right? I'm not being funny, right? But this hasn't even been an issue at this point. You ever watched it? If you go back to the classics, have you ever watched if K9 is going towards the TARDIS and then mysteriously appears inside the TARDIS? Because nobody ever addressed the fact that K9 can't get in. You have to step up to get into it.
Like, obviously, there's that gag in Dalek where, like, set of stairs, Dalek's defeated. Oh, it can fly.
It can fly.
These kind of, like, they made the choice to specifically highlight a wheelchair ramp, which I really, really like. I would have been the same as you. I would have been, of course, Shirley could always get into the TARDIS. I don't think they ever would have done that. But they took the moment to be like, hey, you're all welcome here.
I tell you what else I also thought was really funny and a little bit of kind of wibbly wobbly sensing the future was obviously when Kate's Z-Dex was removed and she called out Shirley, I've seen you walking or whatever. And it was almost like Russell T Davies knew what was going to be said after the first episode. It was a very
you're a person with a disability? Well, you will look like what I tell you to look like.
I did think that was quite prophetic. That's the word, isn't it? Prophetic. Oh, I know what my highlight was. Can you guess?
Oh, I'm guessing it was the name drop of Adric.
Oh my, right. So I'm sat in the screening. I already said before we went in, got to remember, Ellie, you're in a public place. You can't react how you would at home, right?
Yes, you can.
So I was like, and then everyone was getting all like, so it was fine anyway. But I was with Sai, who is not actually a big fan of River Song, despite the fact that everybody knows that it's a big part of my personality. So River Song's name gets dropped and I'm like this. So I was like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, all good. But what was even more funny is I'm sat next to Jacob Dudman, who has never met me before and does not know that this is part of my personality. And I made such a reaction to it that even he turned around to me and was like, are you okay? I'm okay.
Oh, I love it.
They just mentioned River.
All right, thanks everyone. You're awesome. You're wonderful. You can get us on all of the socials. They're all flying around us at the moment. We will, well, as like Ellie said, we will see you all very, very soon. And yeah, God, we have to wait a whole week for a new episode of Doctor Who. How will we survive? Keep things wibbly wobbly, everyone. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.